You know what it is. That's right. It's time to talk money with your money nerd and financial coach. Now, tighten those purse strings and open those ears. It's the Money Talk with Tiff podcast.
Hey everyone, on this episode of Tiffanys Take, we'll be diving into the how and the why on freezing your credit report. Now, if you're interested in getting your question asked on Tiffanys Take, aka Ask Tiffany, you would just go to www.moneytalkwitht.com/Ask Tiffany, and I will be more than happy to oblige. So let's go ahead and get started. So with credit reports and freezing them, first let's get into why you may want to do that. So there's so many reasons why, but the main one is that you can prevent fraud. So when you freeze your credit report, what you're doing is actually shutting it down to where nobody can just go in and apply for a new house, a new car, or a new credit card, whatever it is. They're not able to do that because once it's frozen, no company can pull a hard inquiry. Okay, so that also means, and this is my second reason, you can't just, for instance, let me just give you a story. Maybe this will help. I was in Walmart and, AT&T was there talking to me and they were like, oh, we can do better than Spectrum and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just try it out. So being that I freeze my credit report, they tried to pull my credit because I was evaluating a new service. And guess what? They couldn't get in. And it's very easy to take it off. But in that moment, I snapped out of it and I said, oh, do I really need to do this? It's only going to save me like $5 a month. It's not that big of a deal. So it actually protects you from yourself. So instead of going willy-nilly, just like, oh yeah, let me try this, let me try that. Or, maybe you're at the car dealership and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get this new car. You would have to kind of think through that thing because you have to go through the process of unfreezing. So that's another reason why you might want to freeze. But usually, once for instance, I have my house, I have my car, I have all that stuff. So I really don't need my credit for anything. So I typically just freeze it. And mine has been frozen for quite some time. And anytime I do want to truly apply for something, it's very easy to take off. So now let's get into how you do so. So as we all know, there are 3 credit bureaus: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. On each of their websites, there is a way where you can freeze your credit report. Usually they call it the Freeze Center, or you might go to one website and it's like, go to your account, so on and so forth. So you would go to each bureau's site individually and freeze your report there. So if you are listening to the podcast, I'm going to take you step by step. And if you're watching, you can actually see my screen, but I'm going to take you step by step on how to do so on each website. Equifax was giving me a little issue, so hopefully they can get it resolved by the time I get to them. So let's start off with Experian. So if you go to Experian.com, you want to go to credit support up at the top and then go down to security freeze. Now, it's going to ask you to either sign up or sign in. Sign up is just creating a free account. Let's just go ahead and click that for now. And it's just going to ask you all of your personal details. Now, where it takes you after you see the tell us about yourself screen, it's going to ask you some questions. If you've ever done anything online and they pulled certain information from your credit report, this is not a hard inquiry. And it's like, what address are you familiar with? And then it'll give you some options and you have to choose it. That's what each site does. So keep that in mind. If you're not good with those questions, you may not be able to get through this, but each website does go through that process. So keep that in mind and make sure you're familiar with the things that are on your credit report. All right. So that's Experian. With TransUnion, you would go to products up at the top and then go to freeze credit report. And you would just go to add a freeze. And it's going to take you through the same type of situation. So, you have your name, you have your last name, your address. It's going to ask if you lived there for more than 6 months, your email, your phone number, your date of birth, and the last 4 of your social. All of them ask similar questions, so make sure that you have that information available. Now, Equifax, it's similar to this. Their website is having issues right now, so I can't show you, but it's similar to this. It's the same thing. You would just go, I think on theirs it says credit support, and then you would go to credit freeze. Now, once you go through this process, you can freeze your credit indefinitely. So usually that's what I do, because it's just as easy to unfreeze. So when you're ready to unfreeze, you would go back to these same websites and unfreeze your credit reports. Now, when you unfreeze, you can do it for a certain day or a certain amount of time. That's usually what I do, so I don't have to remember to go back and refreeze it. So let's say, for instance, I'm wanting to buy a car and I go to the dealership and I'm like, okay, let me unfreeze. I'll unfreeze for a couple of days just so they can run their reports and everything that they need, their hard inquiry, and then it'll refreeze. So if they don't do it immediately, they will not get access to it. So this is a great way for you to protect yourself from hard inquiries that you don't really want. And this works on everything. Anytime somebody goes to pull and tries to pull my credit report for a hard inquiry, it's going to shut them down. So then you don't have to worry about if people are using your identity. So usually I don't do the whole identity protection thing because this is my version of doing that. And I also keep a close eye on other stuff. So anyway, highly recommend freezing your credit reports. So that way people won't have unauthorized access to your money, therefore to your credit, therefore to your life. So with that being said, hopefully that answers your question on how you freeze your credit reports. If you are interested in asking your question on the Money Talk with Tiff podcast, you can go to www.moneytalkwitht.com/Ask Tiffany, and I'll be sure to have that link in the show notes as well. I would love to answer any question you have, whether it's about personal finance or business or anything else for that matter. And you will probably hear it on the show. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you for listening, joining, and being a part of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast this week. You can check Tiff out every Thursday for a new Money Talk podcast. But if you just can't wait until next week, you can listen to previous podcast episodes at moneytalkwitht.com or follow Tiff on all social media platforms at Money Talk with T. Until next time, spend wise by spending less than you make. A word to the money wise is always sufficient.